Thanks for joining us at Right On Replicas, where we're proud to bring you the best scale model kit reviews on the planet.
This review is brought to you in part by Dean's Hobby Stop in Owasso, Michigan. Dean's has one of the Midwest's largest selections of used kits at great prices. They also feature new kits and supplies as well. Call Dean's to get their mail order list featuring hundreds of vintage kits, or check their website for great deals on both new and classic models. This review covers the GMC General Coca-Cola version truck. It's a 125 scale AMT kit number 1179. Now, the GMC General debuted around 1978 in kit form as AMT Kit 5001, then again in 99, and now in 2020 in this sharp-looking Coca-Cola livery. The truck itself, along with the sister truck, the Chevrolet Bison, was introduced in 1977 and was built until 87. They were the largest trucks made by GM, and they featured all aluminum cabs built by Bud. Now, several diesel engines and layouts made them easily customizable for their different transport roles. For the modeler, this kit has over 300 pieces, and it's a skill level 3 kit for the advanced builder, and they're molded in white, clear, clear orange, clear red, chrome, and black vinyl tires. When you're done, the dimensions are about 12 3/4 inches long, 4.5 inches wide, and 5.5 inches high. And that sounds like Newt tapping on the glass there. He's our program director, and sounds like he's got a question about this one.
It looks like a powerful truck. Are they still being used?
Well, probably not by Coca-Cola Corporation, but I still see them on the highway occasionally and at construction and farm sites, even though the last one was made over 30 years ago. Here is the layout of the contents of the kit. As you can see, the sprues were pretty clean and clearly made to group some pieces together. There's some nice vinyl tires there and all the different clear parts that you've got for lights, etc. Now, we'll be using all kinds of glue, tube glue, some super glue for fine and smaller pieces, and white glue for clear parts. Remember to use the manufacturer's safety and use guidelines when you see any or hear of any of their products in the review. Here are the decals for the kit, and as you can see, the register is good, and it comes in 2 colors so that you could make one of the white Coca-Cola trucks as well, and a plethora of license plates because these were everywhere in the United States. Now, use plenty of warm water, especially for some of the larger decals, and you may need some setting solution, but not likely. Most of these are applied to flat areas. Now, construction starts with the engine, and as you can see here in the layout, we're going to put the basic block together all the way up basically through the blower, etc. You may have to clean the sprue attachment points or some flash, and if you're going for a contest model, also the parting line. And now the starter was painted gloss black, but everything here assembled was then painted with Model Master's British Green Metallic to approximate a manufacturer's color. And now we start adding a little color to the engine other than the basic one. The pulleys are flat black, and the fan is a gloss black. And the water pump and the upper front cover and the mount, they're now all attached to the engine, and yet the rest of these pieces are mostly semi-gloss black. The exhaust manifolds get painted tester steel, and the fuel filters get painted a bright tester blue, but you can also attach the manifolds now to the heads and the fuel filters to the left side. And next we'll attach the oil filter, and that gets painted a gloss black, the oil cooler as well, and those get put into position, and the lower radiator hose here is added for a flat black color, and oil filter is attached to the right valve cover there, and number 123 oil filter and the oil coolers are now attached to the right side of the engine assembly. And then you can add the lower radiator hose to the water pump. And now we can begin work on the wheel assemblies, And we've got some chrome involved here too, so remember to scrape off any chrome when you need to glue a chrome piece to something else, and paint as well, or it won't stick. Now here's the assembly sequence for the rest of the tires, but as you can see, these are the front tires, and the center caps there are painted a gloss red. And then the rest of the wheels and tires assemble quite naturally. You got your trim rings, etc., on the outside, of course, and then the wheel backs, which are painted a flat black, or red if you want to get fancy. Next, we'll begin work on the chassis, the frame rails there, and there's one little issue that we need to mention. The exhaust mounts are attached to the frame rails near cross member number 3, but there's no mention of a part number 32. Instead, it lists two part numbers 33. However, the pieces on the sprue and the parts layout, there's just one part 33 and a part 32, so don't let that confuse you. Now, there's a raised trademark logo here that kind of interferes with the installation of the right front spring, so go ahead and scrape that and sand it off with a sanding stick and paint that over with some of that black paint. Go ahead and get these parts out for the front end. That's the suspension and the bumper there. Are also a couple of chrome parts. Remember, scrape the paint and chrome from any parts you want to glue together. So here is your assembly sequence and the part names. Now those lamps, those lights that go into the bumper, they get attached with some clear part cement. And also note that you won't be using glue on the hubs there for the front tires. You might want to use, in fact, a little bit of liquid soap or even Vaseline to put these into position so that they can continue to rotate if you wanted to make sure that that happens. Now we'll be working with the rear suspension, and you can get these pieces out of the kit and clean those up for assembly. And you can see the sequence here as the pieces go together in the back end. And notice also that when you've got this finished, we didn't paint the outside portions by the axles so that we can glue put the wheels into place there. And now we can go ahead and add the additional pieces, the wheel backs, the air shocks, and the shock absorbers, etc., to the chassis to finish up that suspension. Next, grab the mud flaps and the bracket, etc., and the lights, and clean those up from any flash, etc. We're going to paint the framing piece there a semi-gloss black, and the flaps are flat black. And then the tail lights, they're both attached to the tail light assembly with some clear part cement. So be careful, but go ahead and add the dual rear wheel assemblies to the axles. Press those into position, but kind of back them up with a little back pressure to make sure you don't break them. And then you can either leave them freewheeling or glue them into place. Now we're going to get these pieces out of the kit, drive shaft and radiator parts. And the drive shaft, that's number 42, it gets painted semi-gloss black, and the radiator fan shroud is gloss black. Now you can add the two upper radiator hoses, and they're flat black. The radiator itself is painted gloss black, and also the cooling fans are semi-gloss black. Now the entire engine assembly can be located and then mounted into the frame, and then the drive shaft is also installed at the same time between the engine and the mid-axle assembly. Now the radiator fan shroud can be put into place, and the radiator assembly then installed to the frame. The two upper radiator hoses can now be attached between the radiator assembly and the engine. And make sure to attach the lower radiator hose to the radiator assembly as well. Now we're going to assemble these pieces. Mostly you see here the battery box and some brackets. Now the box top and sides and support there, they get painted just like the body in Tester's gloss red. Now the step gets painted kind of a silver metallic, and the battery is semi-gloss black. Now we can attach these pieces together. You see the assembly sequence here, and then once those go together, you can add those to the mud flap, which is a flat black, which is attached to the left side bracket. Now continuing on, the left ladder bracket and the right are then spray painted gloss red as well and attached to the right side. You see it there. And the two ladder steps are also the silver metallic. And so go ahead and assemble these units and apply them to the frame. So go ahead now and get out the parts for the fuel tank on the left side here and assemble those. And there will be a seam, so you'll have to fill that and smooth it out if you want to cover that up. And I painted it, a silver metallic along with the step bracket there. And you can put that together and attach that to the frame on the left side. The fenders here and the fifth wheel, they're going to be assembled next, so gather those up, and the rear fender gets detailed with a little gloss black for the brackets, etc., before being installed into the frame. Now the slide plate number 25 and the carrier 26 and the fifth wheel itself are painted gloss black. The slide plate gets attached to the frame, and then the fifth wheel carrier is attached to the slide plate and the fifth wheel installed onto the fifth wheel carrier. You can see there's a little bit of a mold defect and flash up at the top, so break the sprue off there carefully and clean that up before you get to that assembly. And next we'll assemble the right fuel tank and the battery box and steps there. It's a mirror image of the left side just on the right side. Next we'll begin working on the cab, so grab the cab, the visor, and the firewall, and we'll start prepping that for paint. Aside from the usual, removing the window braces, etc., you're going to notice that the inside of the cab on the roof, on the underside of the roof there, it has a logo, and that should easily cover up with paint, but there's also some ejector pin marks you may want to remove because they would be visible somewhat from the windows. And as you see here, the cab gets, after cleanup, a light coat of light gray primer, and then painted with several coats of the tester's red gloss. Now you'll notice too that once the paint has set up well and is very dry, you can add the decals to the cab as well. I'm also going to tape off the bottom half of the cab and paint the roof a gloss white. Next we'll locate the windows and the radio for the cab, and the wraparound unit there, that is the also handles the as well as windshield, the side windows, and there's also a window there for the sleeper cab if it's not used, but we'll be using the sleeper cab, so that won't be installed for this build. The radio unit gets painted gloss black and installed into the roof underneath, and then you can add the windows with some clear part cement or white glue. Locate these pieces, including the amber lenses for the front of the cab, the wipers, the horns, etc., and the lubrifiner, which is in two halves, needs to be glued together. There will be a seam, and you need to scrape that to chrome, and if you want to clean that up and then re-chrome that, that's up to you. But we're going to install these pieces to the cab, and as you can see, they look pretty nice. The thing is starting to come together pretty nicely now. I'll locate the pieces for the sleeper cab, and they go together pretty simply, and you're going to paint that up just like the front cab with a white roof, and the side walls are red. Also use some clear glue for any pieces that are glass, and then the decals can be attached to the sleeper. Inside, that was painted a flat black, and the sides of the sleeper once again can get the decals after the paint is thoroughly dry. So that brings us up to the hood. The fenders get painted red like the rest of the cab, and the top of the hood gets painted the gloss white. And now, as you see here in the assembly sequence, pieces will go together pretty nicely. They fit very well, no real issues. Remember, scrape that chrome and paint before you glue things, and use some clear or white glue for the glass parts that go in position here. Now we can tackle the interior, so get these parts out of the kit, and most of this is first sprayed with a flat black. And then there are other pieces that, like any highlighted or hardware pieces, they get a semi-gloss black. The floor shift is painted silver and then detailed with a gloss black knob, and tester's flat black for the base. Now the brake and the accelerator, those are semi-gloss black and attached to the floor. Now we'll use these pieces for the seats. The bases and the mounts there are painted, they're a gloss black. And then we're going to assemble the front and back halves of the seats together and paint those seats semi-gloss black. And once you get those assembled, here's the completed seats, and they'll be installed into the interior assembly. Now we'll get the rest of the pieces out, the dash, steering wheel, etc. And then the instrument panel and the column, upper and lower halves, and the instrument panel back, they're painted a semi-gloss black. Now the steering column, the upper half, and the lower half get detailed with some silver, and the steering column is assembled into the interior assembly there. The clutch pedal and the CB radio are flat black, and you can attach them to the instrument panel. And then the panel itself is attached to, the back is attached to the instrument panel. And then the whole thing is detailed with some silver or chrome paint and installed into the notches on the interior. Now the steering wheel gets painted a gloss black and attached to the column assembly. Now you'll find that in some of the older kits where there were a little bit larger exhaust pipe, as these are, you had to actually assemble the exhaust pipe halves together, which you'll have to do here. And so that means you'll have a seam, so it's up to you whether you want to clean that up or not. But put the left pipes together, okay, and the right pipes together, and then there's that elbow. Now the right exhaust pipe halves are then assembled and painted semi-gloss black, and the exhaust pipe assembly is attached to the right exhaust manifold, and the other one is the pipe elbow there is attached to the right exhaust pipe. And same thing with the left side, and just make sure that they are, they're the same. They're the same on both sides, both angle and linearity there. Now locate the grill, and we're going to add a little what we call black wash to it. Just take some paint, whatever you have, and thin it about 50-50, and then add it to the grill area, and then wipe anything off that is on the highlighted stuff, the vertical bars there, the grill, so that the back the recesses still look blacked out. It adds a little authentication to that look. Next we'll be adding the hood hinges to the hood assembly, and then it gets installed onto the frame and kept closed, and we're going to add the grill to the front portion there in the surround, and that you just have to remember to scrape any of the chrome off of places where you're going to glue so that it sticks. And now for some wizardry. We're going to paint the steering shaft semi-gloss black, and then the interior assembly gets installed onto the body. Locate the mounting points there and glue that with some strong glue. And then the body assembly is attached to the frame there. Now the steering shaft then can be attached between the steering box and the steering column. Next we'll work with the air cleaner and the intakes there, and then we're going to assemble that. And once again, there's a seam that you can decide what to do with. A little putty and a sandpaper will make it look a lot smoother. Now the air cleaner body assembly then gets painted gloss red, and the intake tube is flat black. Now the intake tube, it gets detailed with some silver for the traps and mountings, and then installed through the body assembly and attached to the air intake housing. Then the air cleaner cap can be attached to the body, and this whole unit then attached to the body of the car or cab. The next step is to add the sleeper cab behind the regular cab there, and we're going to locate the gluing points and put that into position. Make sure it's level and correctly symmetrical. We'll work with the mufflers now, and these come in halves, so assemble those by scraping the glue off gluing points, and they get attached to the body assembly and the left exhaust pipe elbow. Now the lower left side mirror brace and the upper and the left side mirror are attached to the left side of the body, and then the mirror gets attached to the left mirror assembly. Now you'll repeat this for the parts for the right side. Well, there you have it. Your model's complete. And this stunning livery of the Coca-Cola colors is really quite nice. And it's a head turner on your shelf. The model itself goes together pretty well. The molds were very well taken care of and or repaired, and there was really no warpage, so there's really no assembly problems. It's simply some old style casting techniques, and also a lot of pieces that make this a difficult kit. Now, shown here with the Coca-Cola van, it makes quite the display, and it's quite a lengthy one, so you'll need a whole shelf for this beautiful looking model. But overall, it's a nice kit, and if you like the semi-cabs, this is one to have. So if I were you, I'd buy one and put it on my shelf. Well, we hope you like this step-by-step premium model kit review, and so that you don't miss any more, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can do that by clicking on the icon in the lower right of any of our reviews. Or you can find us on Facebook or our website, rideonreplicas.com. Thanks.